Yesterday we left off on. Hold up, let me fit that in there. Boy. Yesterday we left off on Matthew 6, so let's get right into it. Giving to the needy. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, what's up with my chair? But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Explain Matthew 6:3. Matthew 6:3, Jesus is teaching about the heart behind personal piety, specifically focusing on almsgiving or acts of charity. This is a vivid, almost humorous metaphor used to illustrate a profound spiritual principle, and here is the breakdown: the call for secrecy. The left hand and the right hand imagery suggest a level of privacy so deep that even you aren't tracking your own good deeds. It's a direct contrast to the hypocrite. Oh, okay, so that's what it meant. So even you aren't tracking your own good deeds. Okay. Regarding the motive, the primary concern here isn't the act of giving, but the why behind it. The trap: if we give to be seen by others, our reward is simply the temporary praise of people. Okay, that makes sense. I guess I'll save that one. It's a good one to hold on to. The Lord's Prayer. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. I like it. I like it. Go to your quiet place. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Pray then like this. Pray then like this. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we have also forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Yeah, this whole, I catch myself doing that sometimes, and I try not to. It is kind of silly when you think about it. If God is omnipotent and omniscient, why are you trying to use fancy words when you talk to him? Just talk to him, you know? But yeah, even I struggle with that at times, but that's a good one. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. But you do need to ask him. He won't just give it to you. Fasting. And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So don't be all, don't wear your fast on your face looking all crazy. get up, splash your face, get dressed, go to work, act like everything's normal. Don't make a show of it. That's not what it's for. And you'll be rewarded. Makes sense. Lay up treasures in heaven. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. I have a question about this one. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, just out of curiosity, in Matthew 6, 19 through 21, ESV, what are some common interpretations regarding how much money is how much money you can save and be below the threshold of sin, or I'll just leave it at that. I think that catches the gist of it. I've always wondered this. I mean, obviously, like right now, my wife and I are saving up for a home, and it's like, as you save and your finances grow, and you could technically, you could always get, like, you could give everything away. But where do you? I'm just curious how people handle that. Interpretations of Matthew 6:19 through 21 rarely focus on a specific dollar, well, of course, or a hard mathematical threshold for sin. Instead, theologians and scholars generally view these verses as a matter of disposition and priority rather than an accounting limit. Here are the primary ways these are interpreted. The heart orientation interpretation. This is the most common view in mainstream Protestant and Catholic theology. The threshold of sin isn't a bank balance, but the moment money shifts from a tool to an idol. Okay. The test: if losing your savings would destroy your peace or your faith, you have laid up treasure on earth. Okay, okay. The sin: it is not the possession of wealth, but the trust in it. Saving for future needs like retirement or providing for family is seen as biblical prudence, found in Proverbs 6:6-8, whereas hoarding out of fear or greed is seen as the sin. Okay, I like that. I mean, that makes sense to me. The radical stewardship interpretation, often found in Anabaptist or simple living traditions, this view suggests a much lower threshold for what is considered enough. The limit: anything beyond what is necessary for basic daily bread and modest future security, should be liquidated for the sake of the poor. The sin: keeping a large surplus while others starve, is interpreted as laying up treasure on earth. In this view, the threshold is crossed when savings exceed reasonable preparation and move into luxury or excessive accumulation. Yeah, I mean, even either one of these, I don't know about this, but either one of these I think is fair in terms of something to hold on to, at least for my own sake. So, okay. The productive wealth versus idle hoarding view. Some commentators distinguish between capital, money used to create jobs, help others, or sustain a business, and treasure, money kept solely for personal status or security. Okay, we can move on from that. But that helps me. All right. But let me go ahead and save. Basically going to save all of Jesus's words, but those for sure. Okay, verse 22. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? What does that mean? Explain. Matthew 6:22. In Matthew 6:22, Jesus uses a physical metaphor to illustrate a spiritual reality. The verse reads, "The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light." The metaphor of the eye. In the ancient world, the eye was often viewed not just as a window that lets light in, but as a lamp that determines how a person perceives the world. The healthy eye. The Greek word translated as healthy, haplos, can also mean single, sincere, or undivided. Single, sincere, or undivided. It suggests a sense of focus, the body. This represents the whole person, your character, your decisions, and your spiritual state. Spiritual focus. Jesus is talking about intentionality. Intentionality. If your spiritual eye is focused solely on God and his righteousness, your entire life, the body, will be guided by truth and virtue. Virtue akin to light. If your focus is divided, trying to serve both God and money, or God and self, your perception becomes clouded. The context, treasure and heart. This verse sits directly between two famous teachings, Matthew 6:19 through 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve God and money. By placing the lamp of the body teaching here, Jesus is showing what you value acts as the lens through which you see everything else. If you value heavenly treasures, your vision is healthy and clear. If you are consumed by earthly greed, your vision is bad, as mentioned in the following verse. I wanted to explain did I not ask for the right verse? 6:22. No, I did. Explain the portion about, or explain the latter half of the verse. No. It's another verse. My bad. I didn't see the little 6:23. Okay, that's why. I was like, that's usually pretty good about this. In Matthew 6:23, Jesus presents the sobering flip side to the metaphor of the eye. In the ESV, it reads, "But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?" Oops. This verse completes the teaching on spiritual vision by describing the consequences of a distorted focus. The bad eye, poneros, just as healthy in verse 22 implied singleness and generosity, the Greek word for bad, poneros, carries a specific cultural weight. Divided or evil. It refers to a diseased eye that cannot focus, representing a heart divided between God and the world. The evil eye. In the Jewish idiom of the time, having an evil eye was a common expression for envy, greed, or stinginess. Distorted reality. A bad eye doesn't just see poorly, it misinterprets what it sees. It views material things as ultimate and spiritual things as secondary. Your whole body will be full of darkness if the window, the eye, is clouded by greed or worldly ambition. No light can enter the house, the body, and the soul. Makes sense. Moral blindness. When your primary motivation is self-interest or wealth, your moral compass breaks. You begin to call good what is actually harmful. The total impact. Jesus emphasizes that this isn't just a small flaw, it affects the whole body. A single persistent idol or wrong focus can corrupt a person's entire character and every decision they make. And finally, the paradox, if the light in you is darkness. This is perhaps the most haunting part of the verse. Jesus warns against self-deception. False light, this refers to someone who thinks they are walking in the light, perhaps through religious legalism or self-righteousness, but is actually motivated by a bad eye, pride, or greed. The great darkness, if the very thing you rely on for guidance, your conscience or your worldview, is itself corrupted, you have no way to find your way out. It is a darkness that doesn't even know it is dark. Dang. Okay. Verse 24, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Boom. Do not be anxious. I know a lot of people that are that ought to read this. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. I mean, you gotta love that. I'll save that whole thing. I used to struggle with anxiety a lot. I didn't like medicate for it, but just just worry. And I still battle with it a little bit just because of past experience, but honestly, my life's never been better since I turned my life over to Christ, financially, actually in every way, if I'm being honest. And that's not a sales pitch. It's just the truth. And I think a big part of it really is just, I think it's two major things, at least for me. Number one is realizing that although not true for every single issue in my life, most of my problems were self-inflicted. So acknowledging that and then just stopping the behavior. And then number two, I forgot what my number two is. It'll pop back in my head, but let's keep going. Okay, so Matthew 7, judge not that you not be judged, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use it will be measured to you. Let me save that one too. Jesus just dropping knowledge on everybody. Judge not that you be not judged, for with the judgment you pronounced, let's try that again. Judge not that you be not judged, for with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. and with the measure you use it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Pot calling the kettle black kind of thing. Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, but when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. This is one of my favorites. Let's do a breakdown on that one. Explain Matthew 7:6. Matthew 7:6 is one of the most famous and frequently misunderstood proverbs in the Sermon on the Mount. On the surface, it sounds a bit harsh, especially coming right after Jesus' famous command, judge not that you be not judged. Here's a breakdown of what this imagery means and how to apply it. The imagery, dogs and pigs. In the first century Near East, dogs and pigs were not seen as the cute pets we think of today. Dogs were street scavengers, half wild, unclean, and often dangerous. Pigs, under Jewish law, pigs were ceremonially unclean animals. In the contrast, Jesus is describing a scene where someone takes what is holy, like sacrificial meat from the temple, or pearls, something of immense value, and offers them to animals that have no capacity to appreciate their worth. The core meaning being spiritual discernment. While Jesus warns against hypocritical judgment, he uses verse 6 to show that believers must still use discernment. The pearls represent the gospel, spiritual truths, and the precious promises of God. The dogs and pigs represent people who have shown a consistent, hardening contempt for the truth. The warning, if you continue to press the beauty of the gospel upon someone who is mockingly hostile, you aren't being extra holy. You are actually risking the profaning of the message and personal harm to yourself. I've never. Yeah, I mean, I take that meaning. I like that. I always saw it on a more personal level, but yeah, I mean, it likening pearls to the gospel, as in when you're trying to minister to people. No, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I never came across the. I guess because I read the King James version initially. I think it goes a little bit different. It's do not cast your pearls before swine. I don't know if the dogs part is even in there. It probably is. I just missed it. But yeah, that's an interesting interpretation. Because dogs being dangerous, likening that to if you continually minister to people that don't want to hear it, then you actually risk personal harm to yourself. Which, some people really don't want to hear it. Ask and it will be given. Verse 7, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks him for the bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? I mean, that's encouraging, so definitely save that. Obviously, this wouldn't apply to just like vast riches, but who knows? I mean, I think if we take this at its face value while also acknowledging what we've already read, then I think you can take it at face value. But obviously, you would you wouldn't be able to abuse this. Like somebody that was not righteous, or somebody that was not living for God. I don't think your mileage may vary. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, you should ask God for things. I ask God for things all the time, and many times it's yes. Sometimes it's been no. But let's do a. I want to do a breakdown. I want to explain Matthew 7 through 11. Matthew 7 through 11 is one of the most famous passages from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It is a message centered on the character of God and the persistence of the believer. The progression of persistence. Jesus uses 3 specific verbs: ask, seek, and knock. In the original Greek, these are in the present imperative tense, which implies continuous, ongoing action. It is better translated as keep on asking, keep on seeking, and keep on knocking. Ask represents our verbal request and the recognition of our needs. Seek implies deeper action and effort, like looking for a lost treasure. Knock suggests a physical approach to the door of God's presence, demanding a response. The promise attached is direct. For everyone who asks, receives. This isn't a guarantee of a blank check. That's a better way to put it than the way I put it, but a promise that God responds to the heart of the seeker. The logic of a loving father. To explain why God answers, Jesus uses a lesser to greater logical argument, often called Kal Vachomer in Jewish teaching. He uses 2 absurd examples involving basic survival, bread and fish. Yeah, so if a human father would do that for his own son, why wouldn't God do that for you, who is much greater and perfect and loves you unconditionally? The point is simple. Even imperfect, evil humans have a natural instinct to provide good things for their children. They don't mock their children's needs with dangerous substitutes. The how much more conclusion. Jesus wraps up the thought with a powerful comparison. If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? This is the core of the passage. It corrects a common misconception that we have to pester a reluctant God to get his attention. Instead, it suggests that God is more willing to give than we are to ask. Dang. He is the perfect Father who has both the heart to want the best for us and the resources to provide it. Well, that's just lovely. I like that a lot. The golden rule. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. What are we at? 28. Okay, good. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many, for the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. And those who find it are few. Yeah, put that on a t-shirt. That's especially in American society, because we just got it so good, like for the most part. It's a different kind of fight, I think, to walk with God. But let's do a breakdown on that one. We might, how much more? Because these are all so dense, we'll probably just end it here, but let's do a breakdown on that one. Explain Matthew 7:12 through 14. Well, I think we get the golden rule, so let's just do 13 through 14. The passage is part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and is one of the most famous and sobering metaphors regarding spiritual life and the choices we make. The 2 gates and 2 ways. Jesus contrasts 2 different life paths using the imagery of gates and roads. Feature. The wide gate. give me some breakdown, not a table. Okay, the necessity of choice. Jesus presents a binary. In his view, there isn't a third middle road. By not choosing the narrow path, one inherently remains on the broad one. It suggests that spiritual life isn't something we stumble into by accident. It requires a deliberate turn. Heard that? The nature of the narrow way. The Greek word for narrow or straight in this context is thlibo, which can also mean afflicted or pressed. This implies that following the teachings of Jesus, like loving your enemies or choosing humility, isn't always the comfortable route. It involves friction with the world's standard way of doing things. The warning of the crowd. The broad road is popular. Jesus warns that the truth and righteousness are rarely a popularity contest. Just because everyone is doing it doesn't mean it leads to a good destination. And finally, a common misconception. People often read this as Jesus being exclusive or mean-spirited. However, scholars and theologians often point out that the invitation to the narrow gate is open to everyone. The narrowness isn't about God trying to keep people out. It's about the specific nature of the path. Living with integrity, sacrifice, and faith rather than following impulsive desires or social trends. Yep. I hope everyone understands that. I think, I certainly understand and took it under that meaning that there's not necessarily any gatekeeping. It's just hard. It's hard to live that way. It's hard to live. We have to fight with our flesh every day. If we follow, everything that we've read in Matthew, if you were to try to live this way, it's going to be difficult. That's not to say you'll be unhappy. I would argue the opposite. I think if you're actually saved and you pray on a daily basis and you're asking God and you're actively trying to develop a relationship with God, it is absolutely doable, and you can absolutely change and actually want to live this way. That doesn't mean it's easy, though, and I think that's what this is trying to convey. But I can attest to that. It's I've done a 180, but it's still difficult. Your flesh is still there. Old habits die hard. There's a million things I could talk about that. Now and again, I still want to do. The spirit doesn't want to do it, but the flesh wants to do these things, and you just have to overcome it with prayer and discipline. But anyway, what are we at now? We're at 33. Okay. So we'll wrap it up there for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow.